has publicly acknowledged that she is a lesbian. She refused to undergo the Olympic medical examination. This is because she was born with a Y chromosome and has multiple characteristics.
This is taking place. Brittney Griner comes out and says, I am so sick and tired of the NBA, WNBA. It used to be a peaceful, small little thing. Now there's crowds screaming, hollering.
At Dallas. This is her second stint with Rickea and Brittney Griner and Jackson.
So Rickea Jackson just jumped headfirst into the whole Brittney Griner chaos, and she dropped a twist so wild it might finally explain the long-standing beef between these two. And yes, it's all tied to those jaw-dropping rumors that have been swirling around Brittney lately. Turns out it's about the shocking way Rickea claims she discovered Brittney's real identity, not the polished image the WNBA has been pushing for years. For a long time, Rickea kept that bombshell to herself.
It makes absolutely no sense for you to, on one hand, say you're standing up for women's rights and women's pay, and then on the other hand saying it's criminal that a biological man plays in women's sports. As you are competing in women's sports and not the NBA, if you felt like there was no difference, there was no advantages that men have, then why don't you play in the NBA?
Focusing on her career, but now that people are calling her the troublemaker, she's flipping the script and telling her side, and she's letting the fans decide who's the real villain here. This WNBA saga has more twists than a telenovela. In just a few months, the league's gone from barely making headlines to becoming one of the most talked about and scandal-filled sports leagues in the country. And now, two of its biggest names, Rickea Jackson and Brittney Griner, are locked in a feud that came out of nowhere. Except Rickea's not holding back. She's spilling everything about how she learned the so-called poster child of the league was breaking one of its most basic eligibility rules and somehow got away with it. Yep, according to Rickea, this is exactly what Brittney Griner's been pulling off. But the real tea is, how did Rickea uncover one of the NBA's most tightly guarded secrets? It all kicked off
Etiquette debut at Dallas. This is her second stint with Rickea and Griner and Jackson. Boy, that developed very quickly.
Last September, during a Mercury versus Sparks game, just seconds before the break, Rickea and her teammate Lee Ueru went to box out Brittney, a routine defensive move. But out of nowhere, Brittney's elbow shot up and slammed Rickea right in the face. Rickea wasn't about to let that slide. She stepped to Brittney, words were exchanged, and the whole thing almost exploded before coaches and teammates dragged them apart. Both players got fouled out. But when they returned, it was obvious where the crowd's loyalty was, and it wasn't with Brittney. Fans couldn't believe what they'd just seen. Brittney had clearly started it, yet when she finally spoke on it later, she brushed it off like nothing happened. All she said was, "It's basketball." Stuff gets heated. I like Rickea. I like her game. No hard feelings. Sure, the sport gets physical, but clocking another player in the face and then acting like it's no big deal, that's not just part of the game. That's a whole different energy. This wasn't just bad sportsmanship. It was straight up malice right there for the whole world to see. But trust, that was only the beginning of this mess. See, Rickea might not have been a rookie, but even she was stunned at how far Brittney took things in what should have been a routine play. That kind of aggression felt extreme, even for a heated game. That's when Rickea decided to do her own digging into Brittney Griner, and what she found flipped her entire view of the WNBA upside down. Rickea had always heard whispers that the league had secrets, but she never expected something this explosive, discovering that one of its biggest stars might be playing under false pretenses. And the worst part, Rickea claims the league wasn't just aware. They were protecting Brittney, all for the sake of looking progressive. Suddenly, Brittney's fearless fouls made perfect sense. Why wouldn't she push limits when she knew the higher-ups had her back? And fouls? Oh, Brittney's got a history. Her career is littered with controversial moments caught on camera, teammates complaining about injuries from her plays, opponents walking off the court bruised and furious. When multiple players across different teams are pointing fingers at the same person.
Brittney Griner was caught on tape during a game with the Indiana Fever, dropping racial slurs against Caitlin Clark, and pretty obviously doing so.
Exact fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
And it doesn't take a lot of genius to lip read Brittney Griner, whose voice, by the way, is about as low as mine is, calling her trash and an effing white girl. Now, of course, if Caitlin Clark had ever suggested the same in reverse, using black as opposed to white in that sentence, that'd be the end of her WNBA career. But Brittney Griner is going strong. It's totally fine.
You can't just call that a coincidence. For anyone thinking this is being blown out of proportion, just roll the tape. We've all seen Brittney get overly physical with different players. And if you've been paying even a little attention, you've definitely seen the viral clips of her going hard on Caitlin Clark. Rickea had been clocking all these moments, and she knew there had to be a bigger story hiding in plain sight. The question everyone started asking was, how is it that Brittney walks away from these rough encounters without a scratch, while other players are sidelined for games at a time with injuries? Something wasn't adding up.
Can you play or can you not play? Do you have an advantage or are you at a disadvantage? It's not even that hard. Biological men don't play against biological women. Why? Because they will be dusting you off all day long. Do you think that Brittney Griner can play in the NBA? F no. She wouldn't even make any team in the NBA. Brittney Griner wouldn't make a single NBA team roster. None. She wouldn't even be on a practice squad. And you know what they do during training? This is what makes me infuriated. You know what the women do when they train in basketball? They play against men who are not professional, because the women ain't gonna push them to be better. The men are gonna push them. And she know that, I know that, you know that. But they still get on stage and be disingenuous and foolish. Nobody's trying to block a transgender for playing sports. You just can't cheat, bruh. Why is there no trans man being ousted in sports? Why? A woman turned into a man. Why don't we see any examples? Show me an example of a woman turning into a man and winning first place. Because we know it don't happen.
And soon, whispers turned into full-on claims. People started saying the only reason Brittney has such a massive physical edge over other WNBA players is because she's not really competing on the same playing field as them.
In a family, women will preemptively get like double mastectomies. There's some great surgeons out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't see any scars on Brittney's chest that would be indicative of a double mastectomy or top surgery for gender transition.
We all know this is exactly why men's and women's sports have always been separated. For decades, medical experts have studied differences in stamina, lung capacity, muscle mass, height, agility, and recovery time, and the science is clear. Mixing categories changes the game completely. It's not about one gender being better than the other. It's about biology and fairness. But when one
Brittney Griner is clearly a man. Why is she able to play in the WNBA? Behind this lies three terrifying truths. Brittney Griner has been married twice.
female player has physical traits and abilities that give them an insane advantage over the rest, well, the dots start connecting real fast. And here's one more eyebrow raiser. How come Instagram's AI didn't flag that topless video of Brittney as nudity? Any other woman posting the exact same thing would have had it yanked down for breaking the rules. Looks like even Instagram's AI didn't know what to do, so it just let that video slide. But here's where things take a wild turn. During her digging, Rickea claimed she stumbled on alleged medical records, and they supposedly confirmed what everyone had been whispering about for years.
Brittney Griner was in a Russian prison. You would think that somebody who is now free, back in America, on home soil, would not have too much to complain about. Especially something like this. Fans in every sport. She described the fan.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what sport you are. It doesn't matter what sport you pick. That's how fans act in every arena. In every arena. So, and then when you, clearly she's not remembering who they let out to get her back.
The merchant of death.
The merchant of death. An arms dealer that wanted to kill American citizens, according to the reports. That's who they let out. Mm-hmm. For her. You would think that you would be smiling, you would be ecstatic, you would be happy, and something like this wouldn't faze you at all. The fact that it does is disturbing. I'll leave it at that.
Brittney Griner isn't exactly who she's been saying she is. So how did Rickea even get her hands on something like that? Well, most people don't realize this, but Rickea's not just any player. She's got real pull with WNBA execs thanks to her talent and rising status. Her career shot up fast, and with that came friends in high places. So when she wanted dirt on a certain league star, it wasn't about hacking or sneaking around, it was just about asking the right people the right questions. And once she learned Brittney's real story, their tension went from bad to straight up hostile, all before last summer hit. At first, Rickea and Brittney had this playful rivalry, pushing each other on the court, but keeping things cool off it. But once Rickea made her discovery, that friendly vibe flipped overnight, and they went from competitive peers to straight up enemies. What really lit the fire for Rickea wasn't just that Brittney was allegedly breaking league rules simply by playing. It was the gut punch of realizing that even with the truth in her hands, it meant nothing. Why? Because Brittney wasn't just protected by the WNBA, it felt like the entire country was in on it. Stephen A. Smith even reminded everyone of something her supporters rarely talk about. Brittney was swapped out of a Russian prison for a convicted arms dealer nicknamed the Merchant of Death. And here's the kicker. Who trades a basketball player for someone caught plotting against innocent lives? If there were other ways to bring Brittney home, why pick that one? The only answer that makes sense, she's being shielded, even by the government, to keep certain secrets buried. Imagine the fallout if paying fans found out the WNBA had been selling them a lie about one of its star players. The lawsuits alone could clog the courts for a decade. And as for Rickea, she's clearly not stopping here. She's got her sights set on pulling apart every connection Brittney has to whoever's protecting her at the top. And the WNBA might not be ready for that kind of chaos, but what do you think? Will Brittney catch on before Rickea blows this wide open? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.